I've got to say, man, I didn't even know FF was like this. Like, every time someone showed it me, it was just like weeby, stupid nonsense stuff all the time. Yeah, man, I mean, that stuff is in there, but it's like, it's to build a stronger, tighter community, you know? Dude, I totally get that, right? I have never known players to be this friendly. Every time I do a dungeon or something, people are being nice. It's weird, like, it's almost bizarre, right? That's what it's all about in FF, right? We build like community etiquette, doesn't even need to be talked around. Like in dungeons, we see a sprout, we let them watch the whole video before they pull the last boss. It's just perfect. No way. I mean, I skip them anyway, right? Because I want to pump some deeps, bro. You don't have to do that. You can enjoy the story. Yeah, I've got to say, I like that story. I mean, you can like skip certain bits of it, you know what I mean? But the main, like overall, it's like a decent story. I like it. What do you mean you don't have to listen to it all? You know, like the side bits, right? Like, so yesterday I'm playing the MSQ and this like little Pikachu Lalafell thing came up to me and started talking about science and stuff. I mean, that's a skip, right? That is a skippers. Her name is Kryl. You know what? Maybe this isn't for you, you know? Maybe you should go back to the single-player Final Fantasies or something. Weren't you saying you were going to play FF7? I was, right? But it's all right. I like the bit where you can change the names, though, right? I mean, what kind of name is Aeris? It's Aerith! MMO Tribalism. What the fuck is going on with this? Holy crap. All right. So, if you don't know, two things happened in the past 2 weeks that have really exposed the ugly underbelly of MMO gamers. And it's not just MMO gamers, it's all gamers in general. In fact, I can think back to like 10 years ago when my man John Bain, Total Biscuit, made a video exactly like this, talking about the crazy mindset of a lot of gamers when they take snippets and bits of information and then they run wild with it and go crazy. So, first things first. A couple of weeks ago, a dance club, nightclub, ERP sort of club put up a real-life billboard in the streets of America to advertise their upcoming summer party. Now, I'm not going to talk about the billboard itself. There's lots of information about there. But it was so stupid and really funny, but also extremely riled up the player base, and a lot of crazy things went out there, despite there being no repercussions that we know of whatsoever for these guys doing this. But what did they do? What caused people to lose their goddamn minds and run away with the horror of this thing? And actually, the weird thing about this is Final Fantasy XIV is kind of known in the community as the welcoming experience. You could check any subreddit where people are just playing an MMO and they walk up to people and they wave at them, they talk to them, they say hi. When they do dungeons, they are friendly to each other. If things go wrong, they try to explain what's going on. They give you commendation systems to try and make it a more positive experience. They give you extra rewards if you're playing with a new player. As soon as you zone into a dungeon or whatever, it will say, hey, there's a guy here who's never done this dungeon before, so take care of them and we're going to give you a bunch of extra rewards if you go and do that. So it's considered to be the non-toxic MMO. However, following me leaving World of Warcraft on my day-to-day coverage is a lot of people coming over from WoW and checking it out. And then after this event, the sheer amount of salt mine that was farmed there resulted in is this kind of bullshit? Is that what it is? Is this kind of bull? Is this actually like really toxic? It's just that people have this perception of this thing going on, because the reaction of the Final Fantasy community was extreme. Now, let's talk about that real quickly before we get on to the second thing, which is Dragonfly Alpha, which we'll get there in a minute. So, no, it is. It's a very friendly MMO. What I would say is I have been recently playing through all the FFs. I want the history. I want to see where the development came from, what inspiration came from, how they redeveloped their systems. The same stuff I want to know about any game with this kind of longevity is, where did it originate from? How did we get from A to B? How did we get there? So in doing that, I have found that very toxic underbelly. And it's bizarre because you just don't expect it to exist. And in some cases, particularly Final Fantasy VII, we found people who were extremely protective. Let's use that word. And I would say to those guys who are like, whoa, is FF kind of a scam level of not toxic? No, it's not. In nearly all cases, and in everything we're going to talk about today, the overwhelming majority of people are totally nice, totally wonderful people. And that's true of every single game. It's that minority, and especially the minority that's very invested, that is a little scary, if I'm being honest with you. Like, actually, like, scary, not scaring me, but more like obnoxious to be around. They're really crazy to be with, and they're awful people in general in terms of their mentality. I'm not saying they're real life awful people, but their mentality about certain things is maddening. Like in the intro to this video, like I went to pretend stab somebody who renamed Eris the wrong way. I can only express to you the level of articles and Discord posts and videos that were linked to me when I pronounced the name Aerith, because that's how it's spelt in Final Fantasy VII in the version I had. And I was wrong. And the rage and anger I got. In regards to the billboard, which I brought this subject up on, those guys who made the billboard made some ridiculously unnecessary, stupid decisions, such as data mining. Now, if you're a WoW fan, data mining is bread and butter. It happens as soon as a patch comes out, as soon as a build is uploaded. There you can go and watch live streams of Wowhead data mining all the stuff. It's a very commonplace thing. For Final Fantasy XIV, it is a massive no-no. You do not data mine things, you do not spoil things, you do not reveal a goddamn thing about that game, and if they find you there doing that, they will come after you, viciously. They do not like data mining at all. It's a different approach. I prefer it because everything's kept secret. We don't know every little snippet and model and mount as soon as it comes out. But as we saw recently with the 500 mount reward for Dragonfly, it could be a good thing because people can go, I don't want that. That's bad. Change that, please. And then Blizzard has the opportunity to respond. So there's pros and cons to each side. One, you get a completely unspoiled experience. On the other hand, you get to make changes before they go live, which would better suit the community. So it's one of those. But they data mined items and put it in their picture on their billboard. And they also advertised the use of add-ons because they used photographs which were done with add-ons. Only way you can take these screenshots is with add-ons. They also put Square Enix's logo on that, which is just... like, they felt they had to, but, like, you don't, especially if you're advertising a Discord with ERP in it. But they used an add-on to take the pictures of the characters, which, again... Both of these things, massively, massively unnecessary. You can take great screenshots without the use of add-ons, and there's enough glamour transmog in the game to take wonderful pictures without having to data mine items that aren't released yet. Completely unnecessary things to do, right? Here's the problem. Add-on usage is a weird thing in Final Fantasy XIV. As those of you who play it will know, is that the way the devs work it is kind of the turn the blind eye. What they don't want in their game, similar to the data mining, is they don't want things like boss mods. They don't want people using add-ons like weak auras, especially, which are tracking internal data, which are manipulating the fights to make them easier. They don't want that. They want their fights to be epic and spectacular, and they want to make sure they are providing all the information you should need to overcome that fight. And if that's not happening, then they can go back and correct it. So one of the biggest challenges I faced playing FF14, harder content especially, is watching the boss for what it's going to do. Because we never did that in WoW. Like, we had a timer. If the boss is going to swing somewhere or something like that, like Emperors, all the way back in Mr. Pandaria, kind of had that, but it's just a facing of the boss. This is like, you've got to look at the wings, you've got to look at where it raises its hand, you've got to look at the color that's glowing or something like that. You really have to pay attention to the boss. And having boss mods actually distracts from that and makes that mechanic trivial. Because if it's just a case of the game detects it and says, hey, everybody go left, right, up and down, whatever it might be, they don't want that. But they understand that a lot of people do use add-ons. I, in fact, suspect a massive amount of people use add-ons. But they're not interfering with the game. Their stance on it is, if you're using add-ons, we can ban you or suspend you. That's as simple as that. But they understand that most of these add-ons are completely innocent. I use an add-on. I use an add-on that just shows chat bubbles because it makes the game completely so much better for me. So much better, because I don't like looking at chat box. I like to see who's talking and when, especially if they're pairing it up with some sort of emo or action that they're doing, which is a very big part of FF14. It makes a lot more sense. It makes my game far more enjoyable. It also shows the liveliness that is happening in the game. A chat log is fine, but once you see all those things popping up, you can see how excited. We had recently had the biggest Final Fantasy XIV in-game event ever. We're pretty sure it was number one. If it's not number one, it's in the top three, where we literally, the Square Enix engineers stayed up late to make sure that the server wouldn't crash, because we had so many people there. And during that event, we had people singing the Pokemon theme, because we had live DJs and things like that for the event, and seeing all the chat bubbles and stuff pop up, and seeing the log come out was fantastic, because it showed everybody was joining in, the thousands of people that was there. It was incredible. But this billboard exposed this add-on usage to the general public. Unnecessarily. It was totally unneeded. Which then obviously drove the people to be like, excuse me, and you prodded the bear, that very protective bear, and that's when the salt mine opened up. And rightfully so, I would say, because it was, again, unnecessary, and it just exposed these things like, hey, this might force them to crack down on it. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? This might force them to say, oh my god, you're actually doing this on public billboards in the streets, things that you can't actually do in-game. Like, that's a problem. That's something that might disrupt this whole community of people who is doing these things purely out of fun. That's all they're doing. They're doing nothing that affects the game. They're just having fun. They just like to pose their characters in certain ways. Yes, some people will use it for NSFW things. But in a lot of cases, they use them for making fun stuff with group photos and things like that, like free companies or whatever it might be. And the rage was almost something I'd never seen in Final Fantasy. Outside of the other games, Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy VII especially, I'd seen that rage. But it does exist, but it always exists, because we saw it again with Dragonfly Alpha. So let's clear this up, because if you've been even remotely in the sphere of World of Warcraft, you've probably heard about this, and you've probably seen the, I think now, 700-page threads, 700 comment threads, videos and stuff that have been made about this subject, which has been completely blown out of proportion. So obviously Dragonfly Alpha launched last week, and of course people were asking me if I had it. Of course they were. As soon as I started my stream, I was like, did you get in? Are you part of this? Did Blizzard give it to you? If not, you must have been angry, right? No, I didn't get it. And I said, no, I don't have it. I'm not shocked, because the reality is, one, I didn't try to get in. I distanced myself from there. I didn't try to get in. I obviously had no idea what Dragonflight was going to be like, and I didn't try to push it or anything like that. I wasn't expecting to get it. And I was kind of told by one of the people internally at Blizzard that after I said, look, they don't respect the player anymore, it feels like Blizzard resents the player. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, this is from the video titled An End of an Era, when we stopped covering WoW. It feels like there's no respect for the players. It almost feels like Blizzard resents the players in a lot of ways. If that changes, I'll come and have a look. I'll come and check it out. It's not going to be WoW coverage, but maybe. I'm never going to say never. I'll come and have a look. I'll come and check it out. I know you probably didn't watch it, but are still angry about it. You should watch it, because it'll make more sense as to what the hell is going on here.
I'll come and have a look.
So in there we said we'd only ever come back and have a look at WoW if they changed those aspects, because that's how I felt the game had gone for a long time. It was just mandatory stuff, chores all the time, just forcing you down roads, whether you wanted to or not, with a cattle prod, saying, well, if you don't want to have like power, then you have to you have to run on our hamster wheel. And it wasn't fun. And it just went that way for years and years. They were pigeonholing people with covenants and things like that. All that kind of stuff was happening. Now, Dragonflight seems to be a complete 180 on that. After like 5 years, I would say Legion, they kind of got lucky. It started rough, and then they fixed it up, and then after that, it went in a different way. We're not going to go too much detail on that. There's hundreds of videos I've made on that. But Dragonflight looks like a complete 180. So I was like, cool. Ian was doing some fantastic interviews and talking about it. So the day Alpha came, I was kind of the thing that got me in trouble was saying I'm still kind of pissed about it, which is a very, very, as most people realize. Again, we're talking about this very tiny percentage of people who don't get this. But yeah, I was like, fuck. Yeah, I'm still kind of pissed about it. I have no right to be. I have absolutely no right to feel that way, but I did. And that's what I said. Is like I was being honest with my audience, as I always am. It's easier for me, who's on camera and recording my audio 12 to 15 hours a day regularly. It's easier if you just tell the truth, because then you don't have to remember lies. That's how I look at it. It's like, why would I bother lying? So I told the truth. I was like, yeah, although I didn't expect to get it, I was kind of told I wasn't going to get it. I still feel kind of pissed about it, but whatever, we'll move on with it. And that was it. But that clip is about, I don't know, 15 seconds long or something. Shitstorm everywhere. And it was again this salty tribalism that kicked off. Is like being a traitor to a video game is fucking stupid. Absolutely fucking stupid. That's like being a traitor to Coca-Cola. What are you doing? Honestly, you absolute maniacs. Like, what are you doing? He left us. Yeah, I wasn't having fun anymore in a video game. I left you, sorry. Like, it's so bizarre. The fucking madness that came out of this. And I will link the thread so you can go and have a read. The worst part about it is none of it was true. And that makes all this kind of stuff really hard to deal with for us. Well, it doesn't actually. It makes it easy. We just ignore it because there's no way of winning with that. I even had people on Twitter, which was, again, hundreds and hundreds of tweets about this, where I said, I didn't try and get it. I didn't do anything because I've never had to in the past. If I was ever getting into an alpha, it appeared. That's it. It simply appeared. And therefore, we didn't do anything about it at all. We just left it be. I haven't followed the internals of Blizzard for a while, besides what's been in the news. I am a part of the Content Creators Discord, but I don't check there very often because those guys are usually chatting about all kinds of different things that I'm not interested in. It might be pet battles. It might be what's going on in Zereth Mortars, which I'm not playing. So I have it muted. Duh, because, you know, I'm not going to follow that stuff right now. I'm not going to check that. I'll wait for some big announcement like an alpha coming. So anyway, this salt miners tribalism, very directed against me, was interesting because it was nonsense. Like, we'd never play WoW again. People who believe that if you stop covering a game on YouTube, then you should never touch the game again. It's kind of weird. I haven't played WoW for a while. I played raiding with my friends. I said in that video, again, if you didn't watch it, I did say in the video I was still playing WoW, and we haven't covered World of Warcraft on any sort of regular basis on the YouTube channel for a while, which is what we said we would do. And we're not going back to that either. I'm not going to be doing it. Some people actually in my community were very thankful for this explanation, so maybe I can make it. When we're saying we're not covering WoW anymore, think about every single alpha and beta since time immemorial. Well, basically since Cataclysm, although I did test the game beforehand, we made class guides or class looks on every single class spec in the game, every single dungeon, all the new things, what's happening with the systems. We would pump out something like 3 or 4 videos a day and had an entire team behind the scenes working on different areas of the game, giving their impressions, experts on their classes and specs. We did this for Shadowlands, right? We had Shadow Priest experts, Rose experts, DK experts, all looking at these things, feeding back into us, and then paying them for doing that, right? To provide that coverage so everybody had an understanding of what was going on. Because I was under no illusions I don't know every single in and out of every class. That was what we did for a long time. And then we essentially made a WoW video every single day for literally years. And we stopped doing that. We're not covering, not playing anymore, not having fun with it anymore, not doing that anymore. Does this mean we're coming back to Dragonfly? No, I don't know anything about Dragonfly. But what I can say is after this whole debacle kicked off, people were kicking off, it was Blizzard who reached out to us, which was great. Blizzard reached out to us because they could see what was going on, and they were a little surprised that we had any interest at all. Because, of course, from Blizzard's perspective, why would we be interested in the alpha? And so they said, can we have a meeting? Like professionals. And one thing they pointed out in this tribalism war is that we understand you're not responsible for any of this. And I was like, thank God. This is the best part, is they're going like, yeah, we know it's not you. We understand that there's a very tiny portion of the player base that is very angry at stuff, even if it's completely untrue. But let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's do that. Let's sit down and have a conversation. So I was like, of course, let's do that. And I did that. I sat down with their community team for an hour or so, where we kicked around like, look, we're trying to, from Blizzard's point of view, we need to repair some bridges because there's been mistakes made, right? Shadowlands was in the toilet. Like it or not, it was. It was in the toilets. Nothing we predicted and got angry about did not come to pass. There'll be people who love Shadowlands. That's fantastic. But overall, in the bigger picture, not good. Not good. And a lot of the stats and who's doing what in World of Warcraft were like, WoW TBC is considerably more popular than Shadowlands. So that's what happened. It's like, look, we're trying to repair these bridges. We're trying to sort out what's going on. We would like you to have the alpha. So we'll sort that out for you so you can check it out and have a look. See what you think. And I was like, awesome. That sounds really fun. It was very professional. It was very nice. And then we talked about a great number of other subjects, which we'll talk about in the future. Because I haven't played Dragonfly yet. I actually have other commitments first. But we talked about another number of projects in the future, which was really cool about things that's better utilizing community interaction, getting the community more involved, getting voices heard, which they're doing really well with right now. But after that, I said this in the meeting. It's like, look, you're going to give me the alpha. Obviously, I do want to play it, so I will be checking it out on stream and seeing what it's like, because you seem to be going in the direction I hoped you would go in. That was the point, right? I said I would come back. If you don't know, this is also in the same video. I would come back if it looked like you were respecting the player again, if you weren't resenting the player. And so far, that seems to be what's happening. There's no ludicrous grind that's required, no mandatory. None of that going on. So yeah, we'll probably come and have a look, see what's going on with it. And if I don't like it, I'll let you know. But we won't go on like a hit piece or rampage or anything like that, because I have no interest in that. I have no interest in doing that. If it's good, we'll probably say something. I'll probably just give a fair and balanced review at some point. It'll probably be a video or a couple of videos. That's it. That's what we're looking to do. I'm not looking to do feedback. I will try everything, but I'm not looking to do the library of videos and things. And that's because that's going backwards in where we're at. And we're more successful now than ever. YouTube has been let down. I understand that. And me and Chris are working to resolve that with the rest of the team. But in general, we're doing better than ever. And we're happy with where we are. And we want to do that. But looking at this Sol, I mean, it's so easy to not be ignorant. That's what's crazy about this tribalism. We come back to the tribalism side of it. Of how protective and how soul-bound people are to companies and products and things like that, despite what it's like, is so weird. It's so weird to read how entrenched people are with a company. I understand for a lot of people, it may have changed their lives at some point, got them out of depression. It may have been something they coped with during serious illness. May have got them out of some dark time in their life. May have been the happiest moments of their life. I agree. WoW has some of the happiest moments of my gaming life, for sure, as happened in World of Warcraft, without question. But when that thing turns sour on you, which it did for me over BFA and Shadowlands, then not eating that thing anymore is fine. It's totally fine. And dealing with this, all I would say to these guys and this tribalist mentality of bandwagoning onto something and then being like, okay, I'm in this box now, and we go full choo-choo ahead, ignoring inconvenient things like facts or actually checking sources, which was a big thing that happened over both the billboard situation and with the Dragonfly Alpha situation with myself, was that nobody checked. The angriest people never checked anything. They read a news article which obviously designed to clickbait people. That's what news articles do, especially from random websites, right? You can Google my name and leaving WoW, and you'll find some really extreme articles about it where they take out a sentence or two and like twist it into a context. The same as a reality TV show does, right? They film for like 24 hours. It's mostly dog shit fucking boring, but they manipulate it so that somebody seems like an absolute arsehole, whoever the producers pick. They manipulate it so that this girl seems really timid, even though actually she's fine. She's totally capable of looking after herself in all ways. But in the video clips they show, oh, it's like, oh, she back down there. It's like, oh my God, right? She's so weak and frail. Oh, this guy's such a pussy, right? All that kind of stuff happens in those shows. And it's the same thing with these articles. And you've got to pull yourself out of that, especially when the information is readily available. And that's where it gets really weird. The information is readily available, that you can just go and check yourself. And I know, and look, I obviously focused more on the Dragonfly Alpha because that was personally targeted at me than the billboard stuff, which is still fun to check out, by the way. But my End of an Era video, where we said we're not covering WoW anymore, is still online to this day. It has never been changed, it's never been edited, it's never been manipulated, and I am beholden to that. As somebody who's on camera recording my audio for all those hours every single day of my life for the last, like, I don't know, 8 years or 9 years, I'm beholden to it. You can grab my literal lines and throw them at me and say, this is what you talked about in this video, this is what you said, right? In context. You can say, look, you can watch this whole video, you can see that you said this and stuff. But none of that has happened this time, and it's such a clear example of taking what you want to hear and just going crazy with it. So my conclusion to this video is, like, pull yourselves out of that, especially when you can just check yourself. Pull out. And if something's made you really angry and you're just reading a comment on Reddit or reading it on a forum or something like that, and then you're saying that is gospel, no. No. Come on, man. Do better than that. Do better than that. It's just somebody says this has cost us like $25,000, like in the case of the billboard. Oh, it must have cost them that because that's what it costs in California or whatever. And then the guy comes out and says, well, it only cost us like $15. But this guy is a known liar. Like, you have to bear all these things in mind. There's nuance to it. There's all these characterizations of it. And if you read that, in my example, Preach will never touch World of Warcraft ever again and is abandoning ship because of the allegations. No, that's not what I said at all. In that same video, the allegations were what was the final straw. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ, now this is happening? Right, okay, we're pulling away from this. We're taking a break. And then clearly talk about if we come back, it'll be because these changes have happened to the game. But that's the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not the weight that was piled on the camel's back. It was just another thing in the quagmire that happened to it. And you can see all that for free. So that's the situation. That's where we're at. And this tribalism shit has got to stop. And it never will. Chris, it will never stop. The tribalism will never end. Ever. Ever. Right, have a good day, guys. I'll talk to you guys pretty soon. I'll let you know how I think about Dragonfly. Bye.